Yo, what's going on, everybody? Six Paths Dunga coming to you again with another chapter review. As you all might have already knew, chapter 29 of Boruto TBV Vortex released today, and just so we're clear, and I do mean this when I say it, this is genuinely one of the most anticipated chapters we had in a while. Not only because we're finally going to see Boruto use his karma for the first time since late part 1, but we're also going to be getting several battles across Konoha that has the potential to be just as hype as Boruto vs Mamushi. But before we get into it, let's set a like goal for 600 likes, because I know my supporters are going to go crazy on this video. Oh, and be sure to give the video a hype so it gets more reach in the YouTube algorithm. So, I guess without further ado, let's get into this masterpiece. So to start things off, let me just say I don't know what's widely known as the best cover of TBV Vortex. I can only speak for myself when I say this. So I'm gonna say personally, this is my favorite cover right here. Boruto himself has never had a better cover than this. The karma just adds to the overall aesthetic look of his time skip design, which is still one of the best time skip design changes I ever seen. So this cover definitely gets a 10 out of 10 from me, and I haven't gave anything a 10 out of 10 before, but I feel like this chapter deserves it. The title of the chapter is called Pest Control, the perfect title which goes into the theme of exterminating bugs, and multiple of them too. But as we dive into the chapter, we're introduced with a flashback from the Boruto and Momoshiki deal, which was originally placed back in chapter 25. If you've been watching for the past couple of videos, I emphasized that it was very likely we would see a flashback because of a certain pattern Ikimoto loves to do. And make sure you remember this pattern too, because it will help you better predict what we will see in the future. But if you go back to any major event that's happened in the story, it almost always gets followed up with a flashback. The Shinju's birth, which occurred in chapter 4, the next chapter was a flashback. Boruto and Sarada defeating Hidari and getting his Thorn Soul, we got a flashback on the very next chapter. And of course when Sarada reawoke in her MS, we'll follow it after, a flashback. So now we just add this to the example. Boruto activates his karma and it got followed up with another flashback. It's a very clear pattern that has a 90% chance of happening if all the conditions are met. So getting back into the chapter, we start off when Boruto told Momoshiki that he'll give him his body if they're able to defeat Jura. And right after, Momoshiki starts to question this, because as evil as he is, he still understands that 9 times out of 10, Boruto would never agree to such a thing. So there must be some type of catch to it. Boruto doubles down and says, yeah, but only if you defeat Jura, no takebacks. And of course this is merely the fan translation, so there's always going to be a mistranslation somewhere in there, or small wording mistakes, which can change the meaning of an entire conversation. So for example, I suspect if Boruto is telling Momoshiki that only if you defeat Jura, only then he will get Boruto's body. So instead of the word you, what if they change it to something like we or we're able to defeat Jura? Then that's a whole different meaning, and the deal is way different. Because if Boruto is saying Momoshiki has to be the one to defeat Jura in order to get Boruto's body, then he got him. That's the loophole right there. That's how he will finesse Momoshiki to give him his power without giving up his body. Because all you have to do is make sure Kawaki deals the final blow to Jura. It doesn't even have to be Kawaki, it could be anybody, as long as it's not Momoshiki. Then I mean, technically Momoshiki wouldn't be the one to defeat Jura, right? And Boruto still stays within the lines of the agreement. But if it says we or we're, then that's different. No matter who defeats Jura, the deal still goes on, because we could mean anything, we as in Boruto and his comrades, or simply himself and Momoshiki. So wording matters greatly when analyzing a conversation of this magnitude. And of course we'll find out what was really said here once the official version releases today. So after Boruto says this, he then goes on to tell Momoshiki that he should know he's serious, even without him saying it, simply because their thoughts are linked together, which was first seen in chapter 75. So Momoshiki just goes on to say that basically he's right. He can tell if Boruto is lying or if he has any withhelds. And when I say withhelds, all I mean is just details about the deal that he didn't mention or tell him. So because of this, Momoshiki is now convinced that Boruto is telling the truth. Boruto also makes note that the Shinju pose a threat to not only him, but Momoshiki as well. So even if he gets set free, it's still in his best concern to destroy them too. So with those conditions, it's very hard to pass up that deal. So Momoshiki agrees, but he's still aware of the threat that Kawaki poses him. And it's also a question we all asked ourselves regarding this deal. If Boruto gives Momoshiki his body, he would still be hunted by Kawaki, the Otsutsuki's #1 hater. So even if Momoshiki was set free, he still wouldn't be free. So if Kawaki kills Momoshiki right after he hijacks Boruto's body, well, then it's all for naught, right? So Momoshiki basically says he won't let that happen. He'll make sure to finish off Kawaki before he gets him, just in case that was Boruto's plan. And Boruto doesn't really respond to him, just basically saying, so is it a deal or not? And right after he says this, the karma starts to activate on his arm, which of course symbolizes that Momoshiki agrees to let Boruto use his power, as long as he gets what he wants in the end. So this concludes that conversation, and we're back to the present. Believe it or not, that's one of the only longer back and forth conversations we'll see in this chapter. From now on, it's gonna be straight action, so let's get into it. We finally see Boruto with his karma standing tall. So Mamushi charges Boruto head on, and he gets melted with a Rasengan to the face. And then just like that, more clones push up on him like a stampede. But it simply does not matter. Boruto sends 2 shuriken into the eyes of one of the clones. He proceeds to use FTG to teleport on top of them to deal a devastating spin attack, wiping out several of the clones all at once. And making sure to destroy their eyes too, just like Kashin Koji said. So now more of the clones in the area are defeated and they can't produce any more clones. So after Boruto just hit the craziest combo to destroy these clones, Shikamaru tells Boruto that there's more clones nearby. So Boruto finally opens up his right eye and reveals his Byakugan, or Momoshiki's Byakugan, because I think that eye only manifested because of the karma being activated, which of course is gonna get its solo video very soon, so stay tuned. But for right now, I'll say that this doesn't mean the Jogan isn't real. I can't believe people are saying this, like I'm even more shocked people didn't know that eye had the Byakugan in it from the jump. The story showed it to us time and time again, but it still doesn't mean the Jogan is filler. It's definitely canon, and I'ma stick by that. The Jogan is something Boruto has to awaken through abnormal means. It's something he has to do himself. They won't just give it to him. Maybe a final fusion of him and Momoshiki, or something along those lines. But more on that soon. Let's hop back into the chapter. So Boruto activates the Byakugan to be able to see through the building to his right. And through it, he was able to see more clones in the nearby alleyway. So if you thought the first sequence by Boruto was impressive, this next one genuinely had me out my seat with how impressive it was. So Boruto used the shuriken technique he learned from Sasuke. He threw 2 shuriken. One shuriken hit the other, which caused it to make a sharp 90-degree turn right into the alleyway, and it landed in the back of one of the clones' head. He then used FTG to teleport to the clones and annihilated all of them with a massive Rasengan. I just want to take a second and emphasize the growth that Boruto showed throughout the years, especially training with Sasuke. I remember when they first started training together, Boruto was not able to do this at all. His shuriken technique sucked, and he kept making excuses for himself as of why he was unable to do it. And that was second nature to him. He not only stopped making excuses for himself, he perfected it, and also the confidence he has with it too. So I thought that was cool. And it also gave me a video idea I'm really excited to make too. So after Boruto just wipes these clones out as easy as he makes it look, we tune into Inojin, and he's telling Shikamaru that the clones have now reached Area C, as well as the southern part of Area D. So just that fast, these clones are spreading in Konoha like an infestation. As fast as Boruto is taking these things out, we can see well enough that he's not going to be enough. By the time he takes out 20 clones, there's already 30 more that needs to be exterminated. So this is why multiple fighters around Konoha is needed. There's strength in numbers, and in this fight, numbers is extremely important. The more fighters, the better. So when Inojin said this to Shikamaru, he told Team 10 to stand by in the southern part of Area D, and since Boruto was done with his fight early, he tells him to go ahead and join Team 10, but still exterminate them if he happens to intercept them on the way. So Boruto flies off to the next area. So now tuning into the next fight, like I said, there's a lot of action we're going to be going through. So we see more clones, and they're talking to each other about how their numbers are rapidly declining because of Boruto. But they don't care because their business is with Ada. And that's when Kawaki sends rods right through both of its eyes. And now it's time for him to get started with his turn at being the exterminator. So as Team 10 and Boruto cover Area D, Kawaki is responsible for Area C. So Kawaki starts fighting multiple of these clones all at once with his karma activated. And just like Boruto, he too makes short work of these creatures. Right off the bat, we see the clear difference in the approach to how they both choose to fight. Boruto fights way more shinobi-like. Even though he has all his otsutsuki abilities, he still chooses to utilize ninja tools and tactics to fight, proving that even with superior power that is closer to a god than a mere shinobi, he's still a ninja at heart. And he will continue to be one because of how he was raised and the people who he looks up to the most, Naruto and Sasuke. We see Kawaki fights a bit more chaotic, but it's still well calculated and planned out, similar to a younger and more aggressive Naruto. No matter how many tried to blitz him, his attacks are just too fast. He utilizes a combination of Sukun Hikona and his transformed limbs to physically beat and weaken the clones, and still making sure to destroy the eyes. So right after, we get what was revealed in the first sneak peek of chapter 29, which is Kawaki summoning his staff. So now we see he summons the staff to take off the heads of a few of these clones. Like I said, his way of fighting compared to Boruto is more straight up and direct. A straightforward representation of how these boys are similar to their respective masters. Kawaki as Naruto, and Boruto as Sasuke. So Kawaki uses the staff to finish off the rest of the bugs in Area C until they're all gone. So now Mamushi is now catching on. He's starting to see that all his clones are being taken out, rapidly. And every time he makes a move, it seems like Konoha is 2 steps ahead of him. But since he could just make more clones, it doesn't really matter. Remember, when they get Mamushi down to a certain number of clones, he starts to regain his intelligence. And he can use this intelligence to make more analytic moves. So while it's good to keep Konoha safe by exterminating the clones in a certain area, it's still in their best interest to gather them up in one area so they can be taken out all at once. And so far, I think they're doing a pretty good job. As long as Mamushi doesn't catch on to the plan, they won't have too many problems destroying him for good. Just keep pressing him to make more clones. They won't have time to spread across Konoha as quickly as they initially did. And slowly but surely, they'll all be in one area for one last push to finally defeat him. So let's move on from that. Now we're taking a bit of a break from all the fighting, and we're taken back to the Hokage mansion where Mitsuki is getting interrogated. They're having a conversation about the handcuffs that came undone once Mitsuki came into contact with Boruto. Lord Kobu expresses to Mitsuki that there's very little chance that the cuffs simply fell off by themselves. They were working perfectly, no malfunctions or anything. So there gotta be something more that happened in order for the cuffs to fail like that. So because of that, Mitsuki is now a prime suspect of intentionally freeing Boruto. So he asks Mitsuki how did he obtain the 4-digit code to unlock the cuffs. Konohamaru, who's now on the outside of the room, overheard their conversation. And he knows that the only people who know the code is supposed to be him, along with Shikamaru and Ibiki. So if they find out that Mitsuki is indeed guilty, he will eventually find out that Shikamaru is the real perpetrator. So he's gonna have to find a way back into the room to cover up for the Hokage. Because Konohamaru, who's now a part of the Singularities of Fate, he now has the responsibility of keeping Shikamaru in the seat of Hokage, as this is necessary to ensure a good future for the planet. So he tells the nearby shinobi to let him back into the room because he forgot to mention something to Lord Kobu. So now the situation is getting a little worse, as Mamushi spreads so much that the sensor unit is now starting to get a whiff of him along with Boruto in the village. And you might be thinking this is good because it allows more help to defeat Mamushi, but it's not good for Boruto, who might be getting intercepted left and right by Konoha shinobi, and that'll mess with his plans greatly. So it is a double-edged sword when it comes to more people finding out. So once Sai gets this message from the sensory unit, he contacts Shikamaru to tell him what we already know. Mamushi is in the village along with Boruto. They're so late with it too. But at the end of the day, they don't have access to prescience, so it's normal that they're this late in realizing. So Shikamaru just plays along, kind of like he's now hearing this for the first time to minimize suspicion. He tells Sai to release Mitsuki as he is an extra fighter and an important role player in the mission, but he says he can't. He's still getting interrogated. Lord Kobu won't just sit quietly and accept it, so there has to be some kind of excuse. So he then tells him to say it's an order from the Hokage due to an emergency. So likely next chapter we're gonna see if Kobu takes the bait so Mitsuki can join back into the fighting. But as of right now, he's as stubborn as a bull. And this next part of the interrogation is going to confirm it. So back outside, things aren't going so well. Inojin confirms that there is nearly 50 active clones. So this is what I mean. No matter how many clones Boruto or Kawaki defeat, there is simply just too many. There needs to be more fighters available. It's just not enough. And Mitsuki is valuable in this fight because of his snake clones. Even though he won't match Mamushi in numbers, he can help out reduce the numbers faster because of his presence and pure numbers. And at the end of the day, it's more help, so why not? So now it's time for Team 10 to shine. With Boruto on his way, it's up to them to hold down the fort until he gets there. So now since they're spreading out all over Area D, Shikamaru tells Boruto to not only rendezvous with Team 10, but also gather them back up somehow, as we see him slicing through multiple clones on his way to his destination. So while all that is occurring outside, Mitsuki is still getting interrogated. He's asking Mitsuki how did he get this code to release Boruto. And as he's asking this, Konohamaru interrupts their chat to tell Kobu something. He decides to tell him that he forgot to set the code, and that's why Boruto got away. And as you might have guessed, he didn't buy it. So now he wants to chat with the Hokage. So you can say that Konohamaru kind of made the situation a bit worse because of him saying this. Now Shikamaru has to come, and it couldn't have been at a worse time. Like literally. By the way, before I forget, I want to make sure I say this, but I love the fact that in the middle of such a crisis, we still have this situation that also demands respect and attention, almost like they're fighting against the Shinju and Konoha officials, which gives it that real undercover operation feeling. You know what I'm saying? So I really enjoy and appreciate that aspect of this arc, and how the political standing of Konoha is now interrupting their plans. And we're seeing it being executed in real time. Really an underrated addition to the story since the beginning. So now tuning back into the fighting going on outside, we see Himawari starting to fight, and while not as impressive as her brothers, she still is a force to be reckoned with. So yeah, we see the difference in power going from seeing Boruto and Kawaki fight to Team 10 and Himawari. So as they start to blitz Himawari, she sets up the trap for them to be captured by Shikadai's net casting shadow technique, which utilized his shadow paralysis technique to launch them onto the ground so Chocho can deliver the final blow. Seeing this, Inojin gets excited as it appears that they have the upper hand in the fight, but Kashin Koji doesn't look too amused. In fact, it appears that something is troubling him. So the chapter ends with a side note saying, despite everyone's hard work to reduce Mamushi's numbers, Kashin Koji seems displeased. So next chapter is going to be revealed what exactly has Koji so displeased. And I already got some theories as of why that is. So if you didn't already get the message, let me just tell you guys to stay tuned, because the videos I got planned for the rest of this month, you simply wouldn't want to miss it. But that's all for this chapter. This one was pretty good, and Boruto vs Mamushi was as one-sided as I thought it was going to be. I'll say so far, I'm not particularly impressed with Mamushi's abilities. It just seems like he's just trying to keep cloning himself to stay alive rather than really fighting back. Could there be more to that? I don't know. But as of right now, he's getting mollywopped by Boruto and Kawaki. And if he doesn't do something fast, this arc won't last as long as we all thought. But overall, I'd give this chapter a cool 7.5 out of 10. It has some really high moments that would make it a 9 out of 10 if it continued like that throughout the entire chapter. But since Boruto concluded his fight, it's been consistent, but nothing that made me jump out of my chair for. So I think rightfully so, a 7.5 is pretty appropriate for this chapter. But let me know what you guys think. How did you guys feel about this chapter, especially Boruto's showings? Leave all your thoughts and opinions down below in the comment section because I would love to hear them. But anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this chapter review, and of course if you did, go ahead and drop a like, as well as comment, subscribe, and turn on those post notifications so you know whenever I upload or go live for chapter spoilers. And until my next one, I'll see you boys and girls later, and I'm out. Peace.